Look, over there, it's actually burning. The flames are starting to grow and you can see the smoke rising up. This is really happening right now. Look,
Burning! Batman's flasher is knocked out.
Incredible horror gripped all of Russia. The extravaganza paid back all the beauty. Is it starting?
It begins now.
War.
Drone. Athens? Everyone is talking about this. Hundreds of drones have dismantled the Russian Federation into molecules. With a blow like a tornado, they strike the enemy's territory. The revenge of the armed forces of Ukraine resounds everywhere. You have to see this. Our guys did it. Oil refineries are falling apart. Putin's legs are giving way, an energy catastrophe. Russia is breathing down its neck. Shock, Donbas has spoken. Explosions and detonations everywhere. A storm of unprecedented scale is raging. Moscow is nervous. The end of the empire has crept up unnoticed. It has finally begun. Greetings, I am Darina Hutskalo, and in our episode of Red Line, we'll cover all the explosive events. Watch until the end. Breaking news, Ukrainian drones have struck at the heart of Stavropol. The Stavropol plant, one of the Kremlin's key facilities, came under attack. Ukrainian defenders executed the operation flawlessly. The General Staff of the Armed Forces of Ukraine reports on lightning-fast successes.
The plant has a full cycle of hydrocarbon raw material processing and produces polymers for the manufacture of composite materials, body parts, seals, and insulation for various types of Russian military equipment. Among other things, it also produces components for UAVs.
previously, this enterprise was already attacked on October 29, 2025.
Unknown drones also gave the Rostov region a hard time. Again, 2 hits.
Preliminarily, there are impacts on the ground. Official Rostov claims everything was shot down, but locals reported several fires.
The Loud Party also didn't spare the Oryol, Bryansk, Tula, Kaluga, and Moscow regions. Moreover, the temporarily occupied territories are also getting ready to leave. In Donetsk region, an ammunition depot is gone.
They're calling for the Batman signal.
The Russians have finally gotten what they were waiting for. The front line is unfolding in the heart of Russia. 1,500 kilometers from Ukraine, a real war has broken out in the city of Orsk. You have to see these scenes from the site.
Is it starting?
The war is starting. Are they actually shooting it down right now, or is that just what it looks like?
Are they shooting it down?
A swarm of drones rises into the air while onlookers look around in amazement, trying to capture the moment on their phones.
Drone, that's it.
A strategic oil pipeline, which Putin guarded as a vital resource, has come under fire.
The attack on the local Orsk oil refinery, one of the largest processing plants in the region, continues.
Russia has come under a barrage. One of the main regions could not withstand the pressure. Previously, the Orsk oil refinery was a strategic fuel stronghold for the Urals and the Volga region, and part of its production was exported. Today, that is no longer the case. And now the nightmare in Russia continues. Saratov and Engels woke up to massive explosions. The air defense systems were roaring, and the sky was lit up by blinding flashes. The territory of the Saratov oil refinery is in flames. These are shocking scenes that have stirred the entire country.
Holy shit! Wow, what the hell was that just now? I'm in shock. Look, Gavi, Gavi, seriously, Gavi, please come on, just listen for a moment.
Locals were in a panic. Up to 7 explosions thundered after midnight. People couldn't believe their eyes.
Did it go off? Where could you even hear it from? Well, that's it, Yoni show. Fuck. Oh, damn, look how it's burning. Fuck, that's what she did.
Hell broke loose in the city. Unknown objects circled in the sky, and flames rose over the southwest of Saratov. Sirens tore through the silence. People were being urged in panic to move away from the windows and take shelter.
There is a threat of a possible drone attack. Please listen carefully to the entire message until it is finished, and then make sure to follow all of the instructions provided. It's 4 in the morning. If you are not filming, turn off the lights and water. Do not approach the window. Move deeper into the room or into areas located between solid load-bearing walls that do not have windows.
The authorities are silent. Rosaviatsia has urgently closed the airport. Russia is in shock. The war has reached deep into the country. Not a word about the scale of the destruction. And later, a repeated strike. The city shook again from fiery explosions. The front is heating up urgently. The Pokrovsk and Kupansk directions are in the spotlight. The enemy has concentrated all its forces and is pushing forward. The Ukrainian Armed Forces are holding back the enemy, battles the world has never seen before. Right now, the fate of Donbas is being decided. Putin is issuing insane orders. The situation is escalating. A turning point could come at any moment. The defense forces are preparing a powerful blow for Putin's soldiers. Whether it is capable of finally crushing the enemy and all his brazen dreams, we'll find out in just a moment.
The Institute for the Study of War reports from Pokrovsk that Russia is reducing pressure on the positions of the Ukrainian Armed Forces. According to analysts, the pace of the Russian offensive has slowed due to colossal losses. And now those who managed to survive the meat grinder assaults are waiting for reinforcements and hoping to restore logistics.
Russian activity and movements in the city have decreased. The Russian Federation aims to minimize losses and awaits reinforcements from main forces. This is shown by Russian attempts to set up logistics through the southern outskirts of Pokrovsk. In this area, Russians tried several times to transfer personnel by vehicles and motorcycles, but the defense forces prevented it.
At the same time, the main objective of the occupiers today is to cut off Ukrainian logistics. The command emphasizes that they have not succeeded in doing this. This is primarily due to the timely deployment of special units from the HUR, SPU, and SSO.
It was possible to repel them tactically. The positions to the north of the city of Pokrovsk itself and beyond Pokrovsk, the enemy's positions affect the logistics, which in many respects are under the fire control of the Russian occupiers. But this is not physical control, and today it has been possible to create such alternative, albeit small, logistical corridors through which it is still possible to supply the troops.
Meanwhile, the East grouping of the Armed Forces of Ukraine reported the day before that the defense forces have achieved partial success in the city. Assault units are clearing buildings one by one and pushing the enemy back to the outskirts of the city. As the military says, it is simply impossible to clearly define the positions of the sides in Pokrovsk today, because in fact the entire settlement has turned into a gray zone.
Our defense forces, also operating in small coordinated groups, Ukrainian forces are steadily pushing the Russian troops out of their positions. Well, at the very least, it is now clear that they fully intend to drive the Russians out of the industrial zone, as well as from both the northern and central parts of Pokrovsk. Well, it's honestly hard to say exactly how things will develop further, as the situation remains quite dynamic and unpredictable at this stage.
Meanwhile, the Russian Federation is trying to advance outside the settlement as well, attempting to encircle it. From the north, however, the enemy suffers huge losses every day, essentially achieving no result. On the contrary, units, including Azov, which managed to eliminate the Russian breakthrough towards Dobropilya, are moving ever closer directly to Pokrovsk. And this guarantees that the city will not be encircled, at least from the north.
Broadly speaking, regarding the conclusion, this counter-offensive military operation is smoothly and steadily transitioning, and it will most likely, in all probability, turn into the complete elimination of this northern Russian so-called snot, which is specifically aimed at encircling both Pokrovsk and Myrnohrad. So on the one hand, the enemy's plan is clear and evident, and our command's intention is also obvious and evident, aimed at deblocking. the Pokrovsk group.
The situation was also commented on by Commander-in-Chief Oleksandr Syrsky. According to him, Pokrovsk is now a continuous fortified area. There are several places where the Russians have managed to slip through the engineering barriers, but the AFU knows exactly where these spots are. So, overall, the situation is under control. At the same time, Syrsky added that the command already has plans B and C for all possible developments. Meanwhile, the Russian group has identified the Kharkiv region, specifically the city of Kupansk, as the second most significant pressure point for itself. Another Russian claim about encircling Ukrainian troops was refuted by Viktor Trehubov, the head of the press service of the Joint Forces. In turn, military analysts note that the enemy is trying to use the Pokrovsk tactic here, but its results are much more modest.
In the Kupiansk direction, in Kupiansk, the situation is significantly different. It is noted that our command, our defenders managed to bring the situation under control. And in fact, the countermeasures in the city are not as effective as the Russian command had hoped.
Another important reason for the pressure on Kupiansk, experts say, is to prevent Ukraine from transferring reserves to Pokrovsk. As is known, Putin has given his army until Friday to capture the city. And now the Russian command has concentrated half of all its forces in Ukraine right here.
Putin has set a statistical goal to capture the Pokrovsk agglomeration. He has not managed to advance on all sectors. He hoped it would be a movement in Sumy region, Kharkiv region at 3 points, which we talked about, Vovchansk for example, then Kupiansk, and accordingly further on to Lyman in the Luhansk region.
And to begin advancing from different directions in the operation. Of course, this was a breakthrough, as he saw it in the Dnipropetrovsk and Zaporizhia regions, but there weren't enough forces and resources.
Analysts add that there probably still won't be enough. Yes, according to information from our Center for Countering Disinformation, Russian army losses in the Pokrovsk slaughter exceed not only the number of new contract soldiers, but also the number of mercenaries from other countries.
Every voice matters. Join our community, support independent journalism and help us bring you the truth from Ukraine. Become a member of Ukraine Today. Join us now.
Ukraine is delivering a powerful blow to the heart of Russian infrastructure. Darkness, like a terrifying boomerang, is rolling across Russian territory. Region after region is left without power, while Ukrainian Armed Forces drones don't stop for a minute. Local residents are forced to endure utter chaos. There's no electricity and there's no hope for heat either. For the first time in a long while, Moscow has felt real pressure. The south of the country is already suffering from massive disruptions, and Putin is being forced to report losses. Now that's a blow to the dictator's self-confidence. You have to see this with your own eyes.
On the night of November 9th, the Ukrainian Armed Forces struck the thermal power plant in Voronezh. After the strike, electricity disappeared in several buildings, then came back. Voronezh TPP-1 is the largest supplier of thermal energy in the region and provides it to 4 districts of the city.
Right before my eyes, I had just stepped out onto the balcony. It hit right on the wires there, and we could actually see it happen basically right in front of us. No, well, I heard 3, but they're saying 4.
In Belgorod, the Luch thermal power plant was attacked, leaving tens of thousands of residents without electricity. The regional governor, Vyacheslav Latkov, stated that the damage is very serious. According to
the results of yesterday's evening missile strike, there is a serious disruption to the power and heating supply systems in the city of Belgorod. Our energy workers, as always, are heroically trying to cope with the tasks at hand. They are now working to restore the losses inflicted on us by the enemy.
A day earlier, Ukrainian drones struck energy facilities in Saratov, Engels, and the Volgograd region. Power outages were also reported there. With massive drone and missile attacks, Russia is trying to plunge Ukraine into a blackout. In turn, the Ukrainian army is delivering symmetrical strikes on Russia's energy sector. Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky stated that the authorities are prepared not only to defend the infrastructure, but also to strike back in response.
What will happen with the electricity? Today, it's hard for me to say. We will be ready for all challenges in response. We work on this every day. We will defend. We will fight. Russians should know that, step by step, we will increase the production of everything necessary so that they too feel what we are feeling. Volodymyr Zelensky, President of Ukraine.
In 2025, there is a trend toward increasing electricity shortages in Russia. As of October this year, the shortage of capacity in the power grid reaches tens of gigawatts. This was reported by the Foreign Intelligence Service of Ukraine.
Due to the demand from industrial, residential, and municipal consumers exceeding the total generation of all power plants, as of October this year, the shortage of capacity in the power grid has already reached 25 gigawatts. Despite the Russian government's attempts to implement at least some measures to stabilize its energy system, such as monetary compensation or discounts on electricity bills for voluntarily reducing consumption during peak hours, as well as disconnecting consumers who do not require guaranteed power supply, the growing electricity deficit indicates a systemic crisis in Russia's energy sector. The Foreign Intelligence Service of Ukraine.
In addition to wear and overload, systematic strikes by the Ukrainian Armed Forces are also affecting the Russian energy system. If Ukrainian strikes even partially damage Russia's thermal power sector, it will cause significant problems for the country's energy system. The Ukrainian Armed Forces have already brought a blackout in southern Russia 60% closer.
Ukrainian strikes are gradually knocking out high-voltage substations that allow electricity to be transferred from one region to another. If their thermal power plants are also destroyed, their situation will be much more difficult than ours. Alexander Karchenko, director of the Energy Research Center.
Not only Russian regions, but also Moscow are suffering from Ukrainian drone attacks and power outages.
This has a very serious and such an anti-propaganda effect directly for the Kremlin, which, let me remind you, one of the reasons for starting the so-called special military operation was the issue of security guarantees for the Russian Federation itself, as Putin and his entourage explained. We see that the war is coming directly to Moscow, and Muscovites themselves see this, and not only Muscovites. We see that indeed the geography of Ukraine's drone attacks is expanding.
Ukrainians have long since gotten used to and adapted to heat and electricity outages. But for Russians, this is an unexpected surprise. So now it's time to stock up on matches, candles, and firewood.
Moscow is at the center of chaos. Ukrainian drones have delivered unprecedented strikes. A series of targeted attacks has turned the Russian capital upside down and exposed its weakness. Destruction on enemy territory has never been so large-scale and loud. Videos from the scene instantly spread across the internet, and the blackout is starting to noticeably affect the lives of Russians. Moscow residents found themselves at the epicenter of the disaster, and the Kremlin is forced to admit the failure of its own air defense. Putin is panicking, but there is nothing left that can oppose him. The steel hands of the Ukrainian defense forces are keeping the capital under control. Ukraine's revenge has reached a new level. The details and consequences of this operation are coming up next. You have to see this.
Ukrainian drones are striking the Russian energy system more and more frequently. On the night of November 5th, Ukrainian UAVs attacked energy infrastructure in the Vladimir and Oryol regions. In Vladimir, the strike hit a 750-kilowatt substation in the suburbs. Local residents claim that the city was attacked by missiles, not UAVs. In Oryol, explosions were heard in the area of the local CHP plant, the largest source of electricity and heat in the region. The attack was most likely a missile strike, since there are neither air defense sounds nor the buzzing of drones in the video.
That was a bang.
This is already the second attack on the Oryol CHP plant in the past week. On October 31st, it was hit by Neptune cruise missiles. At that time, the city was left without power. Also, on the last day of October, the Vladimir CHP plant was on fire.
Moreover, this substation supplies electricity to the central region, including Moscow, Vladimir, Nizhny Novgorod, and partly Ivanovo regions. In general, I also participate in power transmission from the Kalinin nuclear power plant to the Kostroma State District power plant and other major energy sources.
The stable operation of the Vladimir substation is critically important for the reliable balance of Russia's power system. It is of particular significance because it is through this substation that electricity from the Kalinin nuclear power plant is supplied. This makes the substation one of the key facilities for the Moscow energy hub. The Ukrainian Armed Forces want to cause a blackout in the Whitestone city by striking substations around Moscow.
In recent weeks, attacks on important energy nodes have been recorded. Arzamatskaya 500 kilovolts on October 14th, Balashovskaya 500 kilovolts from October 16th to 25th, Vladimirskaya 750 kilovolts on October 17th to 31st and November 5th, Vishkema 500 kilovolts on October 18th, Novobryanskaya 750 kilovolts on October 29th, Lipetskaya 500 kilovolts on November 2nd, Frolovskaya 500 kilovolts on November 3rd. According to analysts, the goal of the strikes in the industry is to leave Moscow with the ability to receive maneuverable electricity from the Volga hydroelectric power stations.
Before these strikes on substations, the head of Unmanned Systems Forces, Robert Brody, warned that it was time for Muscovites to prepare for blackouts.
A blackout is nothing to be afraid of. The SBS birds, together with other components of the deep strike capabilities of the armed forces of Ukraine, promise you a rapid, albeit somewhat forced, adaptation. But you'll manage. Matches, flashlights, candles. By the way, take this opportunity to use your favorite battery-powered garlands. We won't be informing you about every 750 kilowatts, 500 kilowatts, and so on that gets pecked by the birds. Just go by the principle, light and warmth, good, boom, darkness, and cold, bad. And your reconnaissance in the public channels is currently working flawlessly, as long as the internet is still up.
The strikes were announced and the strikes happened. Even though the enemy knew exactly which of their infrastructure would be targeted, they still couldn't organize their operations effectively. Because the warnings about impending blackouts came first, and only after that did the drones strike.
If such strikes continue, in the short term, Moscow will be left without electricity. Plus, there are strikes on gas storage facilities and gas distribution stations. Then the capital of the Russian Federation will be left not only without electricity, but also without heat.
What, and more importantly, when will finally bring Russia down? Share your thoughts in the comments, hit the like button under the video, and stay up to date with the main news. There's more to come. See you soon.